So the idea is to finish at 1:30. Okay. So you have loved the Spanish croissant and the Spanish coffee. I don't have any idea because I don't drink coffee and I don't eat croissant. So there's Carmen missing here. So I would like to bring your attention for the survey that we have already asked you to disseminate. Actually, we kind of have very few responses. I would love to have 5,000 responses, but I only have 10. So I would like to ask you for your help to disseminate among your community of researchers, students, whatever. I can't do it because my community of researchers is all about metadata and ontologies. They don't understand this. So I really ask for your help. You have the link. I may say that the link is also in the repertoires.pbworks.com that probably most of you already know because either you already have a login, either you have received an email this week an invitation in order to register there. And there you will find actually more documentation for this afternoon. So maybe it's repertoires.pvworks.com. If you don't have access to that, please tell us as soon as possible because we will need you to have access in this afternoon to work. So on PBWorks, you have the link of the survey too, okay? So how did you do this common data model that we're going to test this afternoon? So we asked you to send us, if you remember, a structure of the database, either an SQL dump, either XML schema data, whatever the technology you have. And from there, we studied it. We studied it and we started documenting it in an Excel file. We needed to understand what each and every table and each and every field of each table meant. Many of the fields are very enigmatic names. Some of you sent us documents explaining what the fields were, but some of you didn't, so for us it was really very difficult. That's why we asked so many questions, and sometimes we were like, oh God, I hope they are not going to be upset. You know, like it was really... So I excuse myself and especially me and Elena that we were kind of insisting and asking too many questions. You'll understand why this afternoon. So after understanding what the meaning of all that, we started building conceptual models. So a conceptual model is something that has concepts and relations between it, like author, the work. That we can have poem, author, but then not all is about poem, so we have to go up in abstraction and think, oh, maybe poem is not the best word, because we also have stones with inscription on it. There are not poems. Yeah, we have stones. Where are the stones? Iceland, yes. What's the name of the stones? Yeah, that's it.
The runes, no? The runes, I think.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, you see, so it's very iterative. Yeah, we can see it. It's very iterative. So we start with a database. We look at the concepts. We give names to it, trying to be the more broad possible. And then we go to the second one, and then we say, okay, let's see, do we have a similar concept on the database we analyzed before? If not, we just, new concept, no. So we need to evaluate, define the description, right? And then, if yes, well, then we have to define a new description, and then feedback the other models, because probably sometimes, oh, but wait, there's something, we did this, but there's something there that might, so it's always coming back, going forward, coming back, going forward. Really, sometimes a little bit, we desperate a little bit, right? Oh God, because every time we go forward, we have one more, and then we have to go up, back, and we have 3 to update. Then we go one more, and then we have 4 to update. And then we go to the 11th one, and we have 10 to update. So it's really, and we need to be very aware of everything. That's why we work together, a philologist and an engineer, because I know how to model. She knows all about the concepts. I might say that I have learned a lot about poetry this last 9 months. It's already 9 months. Okay. So some of the databases are relational, most of them. Okay. Some of you are XML, 3. Yeah. And then there's an Excel file. It's the Occitan that will arrive this afternoon, which is a database, a local database. And it's actually very, very interesting. It brought a lot of new concepts. Metric en ligne also very interesting. Well, all of you are interesting, but we had newcomers that brought very interesting things too. So for instance, my friend Stephen already laughed because he knows that's Cantigas Santa Maria. Well, it was the first. Let's put an example. So you see, you have tables with fields, with enigmatic names, like incipit. No, I'm joking. That is easy. Well, I didn't know what an incipit was, so for me it was in September enigmatic, but now it's not. But like nar 1, nar 2, nar 3, that's very enigmatic, right? Just for you to understand that probably some of the things we did are not correct. We tried very hard. That's why you are here now. Let's try to clean the incorrectness of our work. So tables relate to each other, you see. So a witness has one poem. One poem can be present in many witnesses. It's like we read this. So these tables represent concepts. Then we have, these tables are a huge, it's a huge concept with lots of properties. But when we have small tables, like for instance, this is a good example, rhyme type, that in a relational model, we do it like that, because in a poem, we can have different types. No, we can only have one rhyme type. It's not a good example. It's not a good example. keywords, well, we can say we don't have a good example here. I'm sorry. A good example would be that, which is not true, that a poem would have different rhyme types. So it means that the property that is here that relates to that one, because there are connections, would have different entries. That means, Helena, help me. Give an example to be better. Uma coisa que se repita, uma propriedade que se repita. It's normal. You'll come back to me, okay? These small tables in relational models are like that, we do, but in the semantic model we allow repetitions, meaning a property can be repeated, not in the relational model, because it has to do with the normal forms. Yes?
Are you looking for a many-to-many?
No, one-to-many. Sorry? No.
So, for instance, if a poem is, for instance, if a poem has different stanzas and each one of them has a different magical categorization, then all these magical names are...
A stanza can have different metrical...
No, a poem can have different metrical types.
Okay. So a poem can have different metrical types. So there's a property on poem. Stephen is not happy with that example. We're just starting the engine, you know? Let her.
No, let him, because...
Yeah, that's right. Come on.
If you want a good example from my database, there are many source stories, and several sources can link to one poem.
No, that's not what I want. It's not what I want. It's not what I want. Quais são os vocabulários que temos controlados tipo em hermética?
Que uma composição pode ser ter métrica type dependendo da métrica ou type dependendo de...
Ok, gender, não?
Gender.
Yeah, gender?
Yes, gender. It's the French word.
Genre.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, but it's what? A poem? Can have different genres. Okay, I have an example. I'm sorry. A poem can be categorized with different genres. Do you agree with that? Example.
Well, it can be categorized according to the metrical type, or it can be categorized according to the theme. And there are, yes, different listed, well, different control terms that define these categorizations.
Actually, tomorrow you will have more discussions about that with Jimena and Diego. So, just to tell you that in a relational model, those genres, those possibilities that a poem can have, according to whatever, yeah, are done with a table. But in the semantic model, that is not a concept. It will be a controlled vocabulary. Okay? So, just to tell you that those tables that have a controlled list of terms are not concepts. The properties that represent those terms become repeatable. So the cardinality will be from one to many. You can have different categorizations to it. So it's just, you don't need to know this, you know. I'm just telling you how we did it a little bit. You don't need it for this afternoon, don't worry. So this is how we did it. So we try to find concepts. So here we have a poem, a witness, and then we have a poncelet that is kind of, help me. Oh, I can go further, okay. So it's the catalog entry, we call it a catalog entry. So you see, this relational model is kind of simplified and going up a little bit in the abstraction in order to be able to communicate with others, call the same things, the same names, right? When possible. When it's not possible, we give different, probably we are putting there different concepts that we will agree this afternoon that actually they are the same concepts. We have to discuss that. So, for instance, poem. Yeah, okay. So a poem, a poem becomes an opus and reduction. She will explain what is this all about. And then catalog entry is the poncelet, and miracle is, so, and a miracle is called the source text. Okay. Stephen is laughing because this is his database, and he's like, I don't know. We'll introduce all of this. So this is so relational model becomes a conceptual model. So a logical relational model is transformed in a conceptual model, and then we are going to work with semantic models that are very, very, very simple. So simple that we will say, oh, is this all about this? Right? It's only about this, and you know that better than me, right? Subject, predicate, object. Linked open data, it's that. We didn't invent anything. We just said, oh, natural language is really interesting in order to modulate data. So we say, a piece of work, a poem, in our case, right? A poem that is somewhere in a website. I invented it. It doesn't exist. So it's a URL that identifies that specific poem that we have chosen, you will see, as the drowned sacristan. That thing here is called an URI, Unified Resource Identifier. It's like the primary key of a relational model, but in a relational model is in our little house. There, it's the whole linked open data. It identifies it in the world of linked open data. So it says, has a title, the drowned sacristan. So we have a little bit, a data model here represented. And we can add more information. So you say that this opus, as we call it, the opus, or the work, is it a ZRL? How do you say it in English? I don't know. No. Title, the drowned sacristan. Alt title, Macar ome per folia. Keyword, soul. Keyword, drowning. We went to the website and we took this information and we model it this way. It's how we're going to do it. But we need to be all together. We need to agree how we're going to implement this in linked open data. Because in linked open data we have RDF vocabularies. RDF is the data model of linked open data, and we have vocabularies of RDF. And we all need to agree in the model and in the vocabularies that will represent that model. That is what we are going to do after we define the model. So, now Elena, she's going to present you the model. The model is huge, right? The idea is we have analyzed, we try to bring concepts, and as Elena said, and very well in the beginning, we want to include everyone, so it's kind of everything is in there. Now we're going to try to simplify it, and that's something that we'll do on Friday. We'll have some questions to do for you to understand if a certain type of information is important to be shared. Because if it's not important, we leave it out. Also, there is another type of information that probably we don't need to have it in our model because it exists already in linked open data. That's the advantage. Probably many of the information that you have about the manuscripts are available in the libraries in linked open data. We have to sort it out. So we just link to them. So we are going to show you a model that has concepts and relations between the concepts. It's what you already have with you, right? And then we have properties, many properties, where we show a description. We also have description for the concepts, by the way. And where we say this property belongs to that concept, which we call domain, and has as range, for instance, if we are talking about a catalog number or volume number of a book, it's a number, so it's an integer. Or not, because probably you have whatever dot whatever. It's something we have to decide, the range. So it's called the range. Domain is the concept to where it belongs. The range is what is it in terms of its text, its number, or can be another concept. For instance, has author. No, has author. No. Has creator, I think it's how we called it. Meaning that a poem has an author. So it's a property that links a concept that is a poem to another concept that we call person that is the author. Because we have authors, we have dedications to persons, we have translators, we have editors. So we abstract more and you said person. And then a person can be an author, can be a dedicatee, it can be whatever. So that's the work of the abstraction. Okay. And very important, there's this kind of uma cambalhota, how do you say? How do you say cambalhota, Stephen, in English? Cambalhota. Like, you need to do a flip, because relational models are entity-centric. We look at the entity and then we see the properties, and now the semantic model is property-centric. We talk about properties, and then we say to what domain they belong to. Okay? So it's like a split. We twist things. This is very important. So let's have a look at the model, right? Now we go back to Elena, because Elena is the one that understands the concepts very well. I mean, I understand, but I'm not the best person to explain. You see it now, it's better, right? You see it? Yeah.
Vale. Não faz falta, sim, mas... Vale.
By the way, I would like to explain you that Helena was very nice. Helena Gonzalez was very nice. So she hired a Portuguese and a Galician, so we don't need to work in English, because I speak Galician from the south.
Okay.
It was a joke.
Even though we have a bit time, it could be very tiring to explain each one of the concepts we have in the model. Can you make the big picture so we can see how complicated it is? Okay, so that's our model, and those are only the concepts. They don't have any properties. Sorry. Okay. They don't have any properties. Yes. Those we are going to talk about them in the afternoon. So we are going to begin by opus. Okay. In our model, the opus is a concept. It's an abstract concept. So it's an artistic work, but I have to say it's very abstract. So, for example, the Hamlet by Shakespeare, and we are in that level of abstraction. We are not talking about the particularities of a specific text or of a specific version of the Hamlet, right? That's our opus. Many of you, when you talk about, in your databases, when you talk about the artistic works you have inside, you give them already descriptions, and you say certain properties about them that are too specific for what we consider to be an opus. And that's why we have reduction, which is, Mariana, sorry. Can you look for reduction over there? It has to be connected to opus, so. Okay, so, there in the bottom. So a reduction is every representative of an opus. So every representative of that abstract concept. This means that each version, like a critical edition, is a particular reduction of an opus. A paleographic edition is a particular reduction of an opus. That these two transcriptions of two witnesses are two different reductions of the same opus. Okay, so it's in reduction where we can develop these more specific categories and, for example, the number of lines of a poem. It's information that belongs to the reduction, because maybe we find a different, an autograph where there was an extra line, right? So that will be another reduction, so that will have this different number. Okay, so now let's go to person, and we explain the has creator thing. So person is dictionary definition. It's any human being, and it can be real or fictional. Yes?
She was looking for the person.
Yes, I think it's in the upper right. There, yeah. So it's any human being, and it can be real or fictional. So as you can see, it's a concept that has a lot of relations. It has a lot of links with other concepts, because it's linked to opus as has creator relationship, it's linked to reduction in a similar manner. We have the editor, we have translators, we have, oops, sorry. It was me. I moved.
Oh, it's you.
Sorry. We have collators, which I think is going to be a concept that I hope it disappears on Friday, because I doubt many people are interested in knowing who has collated which, but we include it just in case somebody says it's very important. And what else? Oh, and we have people that are being mentioned in different bibliographic sources or in different texts that are part of our model. So now let's go to primary source. There. So a primary source is any artifact, document, autograph, manuscript that is used as a source, like it contains a text or a version of our opus, and sorry.
Question is textual source siempre.
For example, okay. So, for example, you are studying Pizarnik. So a primary source will be the different drafts that Pizarnik did of her poem. It could be the first editions, where she was still alive, because they are contemporary to her. But from a historical point of view, you could use a diary by Pizarnik as a primary source, but it wouldn't be here. It always has textual content. It has to have textual content of the opus. Okay. So in which cases were you thinking that could be a primary source? No, for example, a recording can be a primary source. It's not textual, sorry. No, no, it doesn't have to be textual. For example, if you're thinking of a recording, it is a primary source.
Sound recording?
Yes, it's a primary source. If it's what defines a primary source from other type of sources is that it contains materials that are contemporary to the creation of the opus, or that they are the most ancient or the most close to that creation that we can get. For example, in the medieval Galician Portuguese poetry, the secular one.
I just want to say, if you want to interrupt, please do so. And we need to use the microphone because there are persons that are watching us online and they will not hear the ones that...
So, what I was saying, so for example, in the secular Galician Portuguese lyric, we have primary sources that are from the 16th century. So they are very late in relation to the creation of the original sources, but they are the oldest we can get.
My question is because... My question is because if primary source can be ontological, everything, we need another model to describe a primary source. Because if primary source only can be textual source, we can use the same model to describe primary source and the source. But if primary source can be a picture or a life of another people or every kind of thing, we need another model to describe all the world. Or we assume of primary source only can be textual source.
No, it can.
We can assume this.
No, it's not about that. It's the focus of the model is the opus. And all the concepts are, it's, okay.
If we need to describe pictures of Alexandra Pizarnik, we need another properties,
Yes, we need another properties, of
so
course.
another model. But if
But not
we,
another model. It's their property. It's
for
not another
example,
model.
how can I describe pictures with these properties?
No, these are not the properties. These are the concepts. The properties are empty. They are not here.
The
Uh,
properties
they-
will be presented this
In-
afternoon. They are not here.
They are
Sorry.
in total. There are hundreds of properties. So they will be completely illegible in the model. So these are only the concepts.
Okay, sorry.
So and we take we take the properties that are in the databases, and we are not inventing anything. So if you think, for example, right now we didn't find any yet. We hadn't treated any primary sources that are files, recordings, as in
But-
audio files, but so we don't have properties that describe audio files.
Okay.
Or
We
yes.
only link.
But the moment they arrive to ourselves, we'll have the moment a database, we find a database that includes these as primary sources, then we'll have those properties to add to our model. That's why Mariana said it's always an iterative process that depends on the materials we...
I don't think we should discuss this now.
Okay.
We are presenting concepts.
Okay.
We are not talking about properties. As I said, we'll present concepts and relations between the concepts that are called in linked open data object properties. Okay? What we have here, the links, you see the lines, are object properties and concepts. Even the object properties we're not going to present because it's too much. Just discussing the concepts. Okay, Stephen, please.
I see the idea of having general concepts, objects like person, which you link to other concepts by different relationships. But primary source is a relationship. It is not a thing. Primary source is something which is related to everything else as a source. So it should not be, so you should handle source as a relationship and not as an object, and not as a concept. Because you are putting together in this box
No.
things which have very, very different statuses.
Okay.
You have in one,
It's true.
If you are putting together the first version of a text, which is one thing you've just said, the witnesses you say are sources.
Microphone.
Yes, but at the same time,
Jimena.
but at the same time, the other literary works which inspire that text, those are very, very different objects.
Yes, those are source texts that
We
are...
didn't finish. We didn't finish yet.
No, yes, those are source texts. But the thing is that these concepts, and they are all related between them, right? So, for example, a primary source is related to witness, because it's a different concept, and it's also related to the redaction. Sorry. No, it's...
If I understood well, you call witnesses primary source. This is simply
No, for example, primary source is the manuscript, the whole manuscript.
Yeah.
So you do only a description of the manuscript as a primary source, and then because we made the opus the main object of the main subject of the model, so the individual poem, it's we need to create the concept of witness to relate that particular redaction, because it will be already a version, that particular redaction to the primary source.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand.
Yes.
A
Yes,
witness
I understand.
is... Okay.
I understand.
A witness and a primary source are different things, yes.
Okay, so you mean that the witness is the meeting of an opus with a primary source?
Yes, or for a reduction with a primary source, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, a witness is the particular... yes, there is there. It's the piece of the primary source where the opus is contained, or where the reduction we are talking about is contained.
Witness is preserved in a primary source.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the relation.
The word witness is misleading.
Okay, let's go to...
I just want to, I don't know if Stephen is, I feel that he has something else to say, he's a little bit upset, I don't know. So I would like to, this is important, it's very,
Yes, no,
and we knew that you do not be easy, so it's okay to have the discussion. Hmm?
Well, sorry, I think we understood this with Stephens. It's just we had a problem with witness or redaction or whatever. How do we call it? It's just a simple terminological problem, but we all know this, that we have. So it's just about names, I think, but we understood everyone that there is an opus, there are, if you mean by primary sources, all the material that contains poems. And there's a third thing here in this model, it's the redaction, which are interlinked to both things, to the opus and to the primary source.
Right.
So they both have entries from both sides, no? This is obligatory. Because either if you have no redaction, then you have no opus.
No, it's sometimes there are models here that have no opus, and for example, the Hungarian one, we interpret that we were talking about every recording of every poem you had. So there could be two versions of the same abstract poem, and we didn't have that information. We couldn't relate them. We didn't, or I mean, we couldn't find it. So that's why, to be sure, those are all reductions, and we don't have opus, the abstract concept in the Hungarian one, for example.
Yes, but even in that case, there is an opus, it's just a number. An ID, an identifier number, the abstract opus. But of course, everything depends on the material, representation and materialized on the version that is conserved.
Yes, I mean, yes, of course. But for example, do you, I talked to you about the Hungarian one because I know you are also part of the team, right? So do you relate to recordings of the same poem, and do you relate them between them? Are they actually linked?
Yes, they are actually linked, but everything, so it's, yes, of course, they are linked. They have a common ID number, an RPHA number that is in the database, that's an entry. They have an abstract incipit that belongs to each one. But otherwise, it is really conceived on the basis of the model that what is important is the redaction, so the meeting of an abstract opus and of primary source or witness or whatever, how they call it. And this is the idea which is quite original, that the opus is almost empty as a witness. And as you said before, that there are many other databases where the basis of the description is really the opus, although there are many differences, there might be many differences on the level of witnesses. No?
Yes, exactly.
So this is what we should maybe, certainly during the next 3 days, discuss what is really obligatory to be put in the concept of the opus as fields to be filled out, to be described, and what is necessary or what belongs to the single manifestation of that poem in every single material sources.
Yes, I'm still slightly puzzled. In my database, there are many texts which are the source of the content of other texts.
Yes.
I would call them sources. Possibly not primary sources, but
No,
they're
no, no.
sources.
They are sources. In your model, they are sources, and then
they will also be an opus in another collection.
Yes, but the problem is that they will be an opus in another in another collection. Yes,
it is possible that one opus in my collection might be the source for another opus in the same collection.
You have two different data sets.
The thing is,
that's how I see it.
If you have source text, that is different.
Your miracles are source texts.
Yeah, but
and
we didn't.
The collection of miracles are called ensemble.
Yeah.
And they are called source texts. They were mapped as source texts.
Okay.
And they are not primary sources. The primary sources are only the manuscripts Toledo, Códice Rico, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, let me just say two things. Yeah. The first one, I would like to tell you that it was not easy to find names for things. We are open to change those names, but we have kind of three things that to which we are sensible. There are kind of standard models that are out there. One you know very well, TEI, T-E-I, that has already names for things. So we don't want to invent anything. We want to try to follow those standards. Another one is kind of it's a conceptual model actually for the librarians, which is called FRBR, Functional Requirements for Bibliographic Records. And there, they have these concepts, the abstract concept of a work, and then they have four different items, okay? So our discussions and how we follow a lot FRBR. Actually, we wanted to call Opus work, but then we decided not to do it because I don't remember why, but it doesn't matter now. And then there's another thing that it's Dublin Core, which is a huge standard in the semantic web or linked open data that also has names to things. So we really didn't want to invent anything. But we are open to change names. The important thing here is that we understand the concepts. And that's what we have been doing now. And they say, and then she said, it's the source text, and then you'll see that they are somewhere there. We just need to, and that's the work we're going to do this afternoon, for you to understand your model and how it fits. That Stephen is already doing it. Okay, Yuka.
Okay, thank you. When you mentioned this FRBR, I just started to think about this bit. I think that this model now is a kind of Western literal central thing that is it's moderated on thinking about literal cultures. And for example, my corpus here represents an oral culture where there are no opuses, no works. The works doesn't suit there at all. There has been a struggle for a century in the Finnish folkloristics and other fields about what is a work in a folk culture. And I don't think it can be any central thing there. It's a fluid thing. It's a very fluid thing. What we have in our thematic index is something that's very close to the opus, but in many ways our reductions or items or whatever they are contain many opuses in them. In a way, the folk culture, the ways that those singers compose those songs are so different from the process where some author writes down a poem that we have to, I guess that we have to have a kind of a parallel model for those things. It don't suit very well there.
Yes, sorry. In your case, our interpretation was that you were studying already. You had information about informants, and you are studying the transcription that other people did of what those informants said, right? So, in your case, we could go up and say that the primary source was that informant, but you are not studying that informant. You are studying the transcription somebody else did. And that's why it is true that maybe your model, maybe you think that, or maybe you find that this model is not, it doesn't fit your requirements, but I think we try to do it from the perspective right now, like from what you're doing right now. I know that intellectually the primary source was that person singing, but you don't have that. So, oh, well, so we have to talk about that then.
I think that in many corpora, we have the same problem that you have. When we have a more complex structure, including poems like as citations, so you have a bigger entity, a literary work. In that case, it was a performance. No, it was transcribed by someone. In the performance, we had different, several texts somehow related. The oral performance, of course, changed things, but in medieval texts like Libro de Buen Amor and things like that, you have many poems included in a narrative structure, and it's similar. So it's simply a higher level of abstraction, and we will certainly need also something like this, because it's not the same. So it's not a primary source, it's a complex poem that includes smaller entities. So yeah, probably I think I didn't see in this model a place for this higher structure, but so certainly there should be an entity for this too. So there are two options: either you have the opus Libro de Buen Amor, and it may contain smaller things, or you put it aside and you create something for these meta, I don't know, for these more complex literary texts.
As we explained, we are okay. As we explained, we are working with what we have. We have modeled what we found in the databases. We haven't found yet we haven't analyzed yet the Libro de Buen Amor, and that's why maybe we'll have to see how the database analyzes if analyzes it in small structures, and that's the subject, it's in those small structures, then that will be our opus, because it will be well, we'll have to see it. But what we have right now is the concept ensemble, and it was, it's a collection of redaction or a collection of opus. For example, books on would be ensemble. A poem book, it will be ensemble. For example, I don't know, before we were talking about Baudelaire, right? So Les Fleurs du Mal will be the ensemble, and each poem will be the opus. Okay. Then, so we talk about the primary sources, and some of the databases include a redaction that is a critical edition, or, well, we can say that it's a scholar edition based on a printed or on a previous edition, usually a printed one, sometimes maybe another digital project, and they take the text from that. So in those cases, that will be an alternative source, in case we wanted to study those, the scholar work, that was previously done and that fed the databases. So that will be an alternative source. And well, that's, for example, what happens with MedDB, Remetka. It's very common. We have some problems with the Hungarian one to interpret if it was an alternative source, because it seems that it was already many bibliographic sources. We were a bit lost with that. We have to talk about that this afternoon. And then we have, of course, bibliographic source for any bibliography record that is present in the database. What else? Well, there is, okay, yes. Many of the databases deal with songs, although most common, they explore the textual content. So we have melody, and that will be the tune, the music that belongs to that accompanies the lyrics. And we have song also as a concept when it's when we are already analyzing the lyrics and the music together. That's something that happens in LDM. We'll talk about it in the afternoon. Yes, so we have a stanza, line, and word as structures, as different levels of structures of the poems. We also have, well, no, that's not property, sorry. Then we have the concepts that are abstractions to analyze the production or the opus. That will be work pattern, stanza pattern, and line pattern. So, and syllable pattern too. So, it's probably, yes, syllable pattern is over here. So, these concepts are also abstractions, of course. And what they are doing is to analyze either the literary work as a whole, either the stanza, the line, or even the syllable. And yes, they also have relations between them. And yeah, so the difference is that they analyze at different levels depending on the unit of reference. Then we have rhyme, that I bet we don't have to define it. And so it will be the repetition of sounds. Yes?
Yes. Oh. I see you have stanza and line, but not refrain as a unit.
No, refrain. No. So, due to the, for example, in the Cantigas de Santa Maria, you give once the refrain in an abstract way, right? Well,
not just.
Well, not just. Then we're talking
the
witness.
refrain is not part of the stanza.
No, we include it into work pattern. It's a property of the work pattern because
no, it is a property of the metric. It is a property of the metrical pattern.
Yes, a work pattern is it's the metrical analysis in the level of the work. Okay, and since you included the refrain once for each poem, and in a kind of an abstract way, you gave the critical text of the contents, you gave the rhyme and the metrical scheme, and that's why we decided to include it into the work pattern, which is that. But we can talk about it in the afternoon.
Yes,
of course.
Work pattern. Right.
Okay. Today you'll see the different properties that we have in there, and we have inside work pattern, and you might disagree with them, and we'll change them because this is what we are doing today. What else? Well, we have 20 minutes left. I think it's better to go to questions, or do we do all the concepts? They are not very important, and they are only, well, yes. Okay. So some other, sorry.
Thank you.
Will be shy.
Thank you. I wondered where do you place when you have different stanza pattern which alternates regularly in the poem. Is it in a work pattern?
No, I think it's in a stanza pattern.
Microphone.
You can give different stanza patterns.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. I think we have, okay, now I don't have all the models, I don't know them all by heart, but I think they are in a stanza pattern, and that you can have different stanza patterns for each work, for each literary work, so it will be there. We can see today we'll see the specific case of your database that had a lot of magical information, and it enriched the model very much. It was the only one that has a syllable pattern. And yes, so we'll see if everything is well represented, because we did some structural changes to, I mean, not structural, but we unite some of the concepts you had, different classifications for it, and we have to see if it fits. Any more questions? Yes?
Thank you. I have two questions. The first one, maybe it's a silly question, but what is the difference between location and place?
Oh, okay. That I can
Very
say.
good question.
Okay.
Were you expecting it?
Place is a geographical concept, so it's a place in that sense.
A city, right?
Yes,
A
a city.
region, whatever.
And
location
location is the position a piece of information is given. Like, for example, is what unites maybe some of the bibliographic sources with a redaction or something like that. And it's so to another concept, and it's the location will be the pages maybe where
right.
where that alternative source, that is the whole edition, for example. In your case, you have alternative sources because you don't do the critical edition yourself, right? You have an alternative source that is where you take the test. Okay, so for example, for that book, that edition you use it for maybe 10 or 20 of your poems, right? But you have one source, one book, then, for 10 poems, right? So the location is the place where you say where that poem is edited in the alternative source. That way you only have to do the explanation of the alternative source once, even though you use it 10 times, and the specific information is done in the location. Is that clear? More or less? More or less. Oh, yeah, oh, sorry.
And the second question is about the event. exactly what is an event, and if an event has place, why they have no time?
Oh, date is a property inside event,
Date.
but you cannot see the properties there. That's why you don't see it. Date is a property inside event. We have event because a database, the Oxford Cantigas de Santa Maria, models events that are mentioned in the texts. So.
But it is. I see.
So why we model differently the place and not the date? Is that the question? Why place is their own concept and date is a property inside event, or? Sorry.
No, my question
Do the
is,
question.
Is the concept of event is the real event, or is the linguistic event, or is a real event?
Yes,
something that happens in some place during some time.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a historical event. Yes, real historical event. Yes.
Okay.
Something that is bothering you? Anything? Levante?
I didn't see anything of genre and things like that.
Of what?
Genre.
They are properties.
They are properties.
They are properties.
In which category?
Well, they are sometimes in reduction and sometimes in opus. An opus, even in the abstract way, an opus can receive a categorization, right? Mm-hmm. Even if we know that Hamlet is a dramatic piece. We can say that it's a dramatic piece, even if we're talking in a very abstract way. So there are part of categorizations that are going to be done in the opus and others will be for reduction. Okay. Any more questions?
Not really a question, just a remark that the Czech corpus is pretty simple in terms of concepts, the number of concepts and so on. And I just want to assure Mariana that the lack of questions from my side is not because of I'm not interested or something. It's just because it seems crystal clear for me how the concepts of our corpus are encoded in the scheme. So that's just an explanation.
Elena is doing a lot of exercise today. You know, normally she's always sitting all the time, so it's good for her to do this.
Yes, no, it is.
I have one request. It's not a query. A very important part of this model are the relationships which link the concepts.
Yes.
Do you have a list,
yes,
a complete list
afternoon.
of relationships?
This afternoon.
That will help a lot.
This
we
afternoon.
have it.
Actually, you can go there. You go enter the repertoires is there. All the materials are there. You should test if you have a login and if you can enter, because we don't want to lose time this afternoon.
No, but yes, we have a list, and this. So what we're going to do this afternoon is to take. I will make an example using the Corimu database. Yes, you can go to the main. Yeah. Yes. So go back. Yes, this is it. So. As we say many times today, and we are going to repeat it again, this model is a work in progress. Your input is very important for us because not only is our way to improve it, but we might have I'm sure we got things wrong. Some concepts were very complex. I don't know Hungarian. I don't know many of the languages we had to work with, and thankfully, Mariana's French is excellent, so that helped a lot for many things. And so yes, so I'm sure there are things to correct. It's not only to improve it. And so this afternoon, we are going to work with the model where every one of you is going to select a poem or whatever you want in your database, and you're going to try to fill all the information that you think is very important and you think it should be shared with the world. And if there is something that you cannot get into the model, you have to say so.
And we hope
discuss it.
you have fun, because it was fun for us. We'll start by showing you how to do it, having an example. And it was really fun to do it, kind of testing ourselves, right? Or our model. So we hope you also have fun. And I am sorry that we can go to a smaller room. It would be much better to be in a room where we would have tables, but we don't. So we have to work where we have. We'll be working here on stage. We'll put some tables here and chairs, and we'll be here working. Actually, to start, we need the projector, so it's okay to start there. But we invite you to open your laptops and already starting looking for the materials and playing with them. Then we go to the tables, and the idea is that you will work each one in its own database, and me and Elena will be, well, more Elena than me. I'll be just supervising in a way that you're not messing it up as philologists, so I have to control that part. Elena will discuss the problems. We will have access to a worksheet, which is Excel, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Next.
Okay, we put it in Excel because we were afraid that you couldn't open the open office files. So you open it, you will have your databases in Excel. I mean, the structure, description of your databases in an Excel file. And then the mapping, like the field of that table is called whatever in the concept. Okay, so you know how to do it. And on those data sheets, you will have some colors. If you don't have colors, it's a good sign, or not. I don't know.
No.
But at least the ones that have colors, well, the ones that have colors are our problems. We'll have their clarification. We need to discuss with you. The ones that don't have colors, we think we understood, but
we might be very wrong.
Yeah,
so.
but then you'll test it and you'll discuss. So the idea is to be like in a working group. We are working, each one we can discuss. It's really, really hands-on. Okay.
Yes, and each one with their own database. And
then, so that's what we're going to do this afternoon. Tomorrow it will be another thing, and we'll come together again on Friday morning in order to, as I said, discuss what really do we want to share, we think it's important to share, and what's not important, we just throw it away, and how we're going to proceed from here. And in the end of all this, I'll ask you to fill in a form to tell us how was the process. Is it difficult? Do you find things that you cannot map in order to be kept, written, not only orally? That's important because actually I might say that apart from this work, I'm kind of doing a meta work over the process, because I work in the process. I research the process of developing application profiles, so I'm interested in testing a method that I'm using. So it would be important for me to have kind of a feedback of this process of these days. So I also would thank you if you could, just 3 questions, not complicated. But on Friday, I'll give you the survey link. So now we go again to the cafeteria where we had our coffee and croissant. We go to the normal queue, right? Yes. So it's just a cafe. You go and you choose the primero, the segundo, is the first plate, the second plate, dessert. So, é 1:30, está bem?
No, but what time do we have to be in the afternoon here?
I don't know. Okay, at 3. So we come back here at 3, just explaining the food thing. So you have a primero, you have a segundo, first, second plate, and then you have a dessert that can be sweet, yogurt, or fruit.
Or coffee.
Or a coffee, and a drink.
Yes.
So, if you don't have the blue paper, just ask for it. I think that's it. Oh, and bread. And you can have bread, too. So it's actually a lot of food, you'll see. And it's kind of good. I eat here every day, and it's nice. It's nice.
So,
Okay.
any more questions? You have our email addresses there, although we already share our email addresses with all of you, but if later you remember something and you want to check, just send an email. We are always free.
Okay. Thank you.